In Washington, Tokyo is often called America's most reliable ally in Asia. But what if I told you that right now, Japan's ruling party is locked in a fierce internal battle, one that could decide whether Tokyo keeps its current course, becomes even tougher on China, or swings in a more moderate direction? On August 8th, Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, held a dramatic closed-door meeting that could mark the beginning of the end for Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. Rival factions are already maneuvering for power, and the outcome will shape not just Japan's domestic politics, but also U.S.-Japan relations, Taiwan's security, and the balance of power in East Asia. So, who might take Ishiba's place? And why does this fight inside the LDP matter so much? Let's break it down. The stage was set at what's called the LDP Joint Plenary Meeting of party members from both houses. A mouthful, I know, but think of it like a combined caucus meeting of the U.S. Senate and House Republicans, if those lawmakers also chose the party leader and, by extension, the Prime Minister. On August 8th, lawmakers from both chambers gathered. The anti-Ishiba camp wanted to force an immediate vote to replace him as party president. Why? Because in Japan's parliamentary system, the party president of the ruling party is effectively the prime minister. Removing him as party leader means removing him as prime minister. But Ishiba's allies weren't going to let that happen easily. They pushed back, delaying the vote and trying to buy time. Presiding over the meeting was Tomoko Tomomura, the chairwoman of the plenary session. She's not part of Ishiba's inner circle, but she's firmly in the pro-Abe policy camp, meaning she supports the late Shinzo Abe's conservative, pro-US, pro-Taiwan, and tough-on-China stance. Tomomura has long been friendly toward Taiwan, even sending a video message to a memorial concert after Abe's assassination. Her husband, by the way, is a Chinese Hakka from Malaysia, but despite his heritage, he's strongly anti-Beijing and pro-Taiwan. Both of them oppose Ishiba's leadership. When it became clear that pushing for a snap vote might split the party down the middle, Tomomura made the call. The issue of Ishiba's resignation would be handed over to the party's Election Administration Committee. The committee's chairman, Ichiro Fuzawa, is a veteran LDP figure, first elected decades ago, and a graduate of the Matsushita Institute of Government and Management. Despite his long career, he's never served as a cabinet minister, partly due to personal controversies that Japanese political gossip loves to dwell on. Fuzawa announced that the committee would review the matter carefully. In political terms, that's a way of saying, we're not ready to push him out just yet. But we're setting the stage. Most insiders believe Ishiba will be allowed to serve for a few more weeks, maybe a month, before stepping aside, likely after Japan wraps up sensitive issues like trade talks with the US and commemorations of World War II's end. This is where things get interesting. In the LDP, leadership battles are never just about one person. They're about factions, alliances, and the internal election rules. Right now, the list of possible successors boils down to two main categories. Sanae Takaichi, a hardline conservative, pro-Taiwan, anti-China, and very polarizing. Think of her as Japan's version of Donald Trump, adored by her base, disliked, sometimes intensely, by others. Anyone but Takaichi, a camp that's just as defined by opposition to her as it is by loyalty to a specific alternative candidate. And leading the anyone but group, Shinjiro Koizumi, the 44-year-old son of former Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi. Charismatic, telegenic, and popular in polls, Koizumi has broad appeal, especially among younger voters. But he's cautious. Running now could mean inheriting a divided parliament, no solid majority, and a messy policy environment. As one seasoned observer put it, why jump into a fire if you can wait and take the throne later? If Koizumi sits it out, other contenders could step in, like Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi, veteran politician Toshimitsu Motegi, or Finance Minister Katsunobu Kato. Each has their own factional base and personal baggage. Here's where it gets tricky, and why knowing the rules is key. The LDP can choose its leader in two ways. An emergency Diet members-only vote, just the party's members in the national parliament vote. That's about 300-plus lawmakers. In this format, Koizumi has the edge because he can pull support from multiple factions opposed to Takaichi. A full party election includes not just lawmakers, but also local LDP members across Japan. This takes longer and allows for nationwide campaigning. In this format, Takaichi is stronger because she's more popular with the party's grassroots, especially in rural and conservative prefectures. So the path to victory isn't just about popularity, it's about which election format gets chosen. Takaichi's situation is fascinating for American observers. Like Trump, she has a rock-solid base that will never abandon her. Also like Trump, she inspires fierce opposition, to the point where many politicians and voters say they'd back almost anyone else just to keep her out of power. Her policy positions are unapologetically conservative, visiting the controversial Yasukuni Shrine, pushing for constitutional revision to allow a more robust military, and taking a hard line against China. Her critics argue these stances would inflame tensions with Beijing and Seoul, and even strain Japan's relations with some Southeast Asian neighbors. But her supporters, especially on the right, see her as a principled leader who won't bow to pressure from China or South Korea, and who will strengthen Japan's security partnership with the United States. The LDP has seen leadership battles like this before. In 2006, Shinzo Abe emerged as a young, energetic leader but faced factional resistance. In 2021, Fumio Kishida rose to power partly because he was seen as a safe compromise candidate. Factional politics have always been the lifeblood of the LDP, and sometimes the deciding factor isn't public opinion at all, but backroom deals between party heavyweights. For Washington, the outcome matters because Japan is America's closest military ally in Asia, hosting key U.S. bases and sharing intelligence under a deep security partnership. For Taiwan, the stakes are even higher. Takaichi, in particular, is viewed as strongly pro-Taiwan and committed to standing up to China. If she becomes prime minister, Taipei would have one of its strongest supporters ever in Tokyo. A more moderate leader might still back Taiwan, but perhaps with less open confrontation toward Beijing, prioritizing diplomacy over deterrence. So here we are. Ishiba is hanging on for now, but the knives are out. Whether Japan's next leader is the polarizing Takaichi, the cautious Koizumi, or a compromise candidate, the LDP's choice will ripple far beyond Japan's shores. The big question: will the party opt for an internal quick vote favoring Koizumi, or a longer nationwide campaign favoring Takaichi? Either way, the battle lines are drawn, and the world is watching.